When it comes to time management, some people love a good system. Others hate the idea of a system. And if you like systems, then this system may work very well for you, and that system may be completely rubbish. Yet for another person, that system may work really well, but your system, nothing. So I don't like to train people in systems. What I do like is a good principle. And my overarching principle for time management is what I call the OATS Principle. And that's what I will take you through in this video. My OATS Principle for time management is entirely flexible. It allows you to accommodate all sorts of work patterns, including those kind of work patterns that have constant interruptions throughout the day. So how does the OATS Principle work? Well, it's 4 stages. And the first is to think about the outcomes you want for the next day, or if you're doing your OATS planning on a weekly basis or a monthly basis or a quarterly basis, then for the next week or month or quarter. As we go through this, I'll talk in terms of daily OATS planning because it's where most people choose to start. So, thinking about tomorrow, what are the outcomes you want? What do you want to be different as a result of having put in effort tomorrow? Now, the place most people make a mistake is they think, well, I shall be at work for 8 hours tomorrow, so I need to think about 8 hours worth of outcomes. And by the end of tomorrow, they find they haven't achieved all their outcomes because of this interruption or that meeting that was on the agenda or this responsibility that they hadn't thought about. So when you're thinking about your outcomes for tomorrow, first thing to ask yourself is how much discretionary time am I likely to have? Tomorrow's Tuesday. Typically on a Tuesday, how many interruptions do I get? How much time do I have to spend dealing with other people's stuff? What meetings have I got in the diary? What commitments? And if you come to the conclusion that at best you're likely to have no more than 4 hours of time that you can spend on your own things, then set yourself outcomes that are likely to take around 4 hours to deliver. And remember, outcomes are meaningful, worthwhile changes as a result of the effort you put in during this day. The next thing to do is to think about the activities you need to engage in order to deliver those outcomes. And this is not the same as a to-do list. It is a tomorrow list. It is a will-do list. It is a list of the things that you will do tomorrow to achieve the outcomes you set yourself. As a result, it is a constrained, closed list rather than an open to-do list. So list out all of the activities and think about the sequence in which you need to do them, and also which activities are the biggest, most complex, most mentally demanding. We'll need to know that a bit later on. The third step is to estimate the time each of those activities will take, and this is the hardest part of the OATS Principle because we are bad as human beings at estimating how long things take. However, we can get much better at it by doing it a lot. The more you estimate how long things will take and the more you notice how long they actually take, the more your brain will be able to form patterns. Because our brains are pattern-forming organs, that's what they do. And they will see a pattern even if there isn't one there. If I take this shape, this circle with a bit cut out of it, and put it on the screen, you just see a shape. But if I put more of them on the screen, eventually you'll see another shape defined by them. That shape isn't there. I've not put that shape onto the screen, but your brain has formed this pattern. And that's what it does. So the more effort you put into coming up with estimates for whatever you're doing and noticing it, the more your brain will form patterns about where you tend to overestimate, where you tend to underestimate, and it will get better at it. But in the meantime, if you want to estimate how long you do something, know this: most of us underestimate how long it will take to do things. And the more complex those things are and the more other people they involve, then the more we tend to underestimate them. Tip 1 is not to estimate how long it would take you to do it, but to look across at your colleagues and to estimate how long it will take them to do it, because we can be a lot more objective when we estimate other people's time, because we tend to think of ourselves as better than any of our colleagues, but we can't all be better than everyone else. The other thing, of course, to do is to add contingency. And the more complex it is, the more contingency you should add, and to inflate your estimates. If you deliver faster than you thought, well, that's fine, because you've got other stuff you can get on with, and who knows, you might even get to go home a little early. Having estimated how long your activities are going to take, the fourth part of the OATS Principle is the easiest and it is the most impactful. It's to schedule the activities into your diary. And that's one of the reasons why we think about which are the most complex and also which ones come first, because clearly the things you need to do first, you need to do earlier. And the things that require the most mental energy, the most commitment, that are the most demanding, you should schedule in particular into the times of day when you're at your most effective and most energetic. And if you haven't seen our video on energy cycles, now's a great time to have a look at it. Why do we need to schedule things into our diary? Well, it's partly so that we can get on with things without having to think about what's next, but it's also partly a way to manage interruptions. If you've got a meeting in your diary and someone wants to interrupt you just as you're heading off, you'll find it very easy to say, I'm sorry, I have a meeting, I have a commitment, I'll have to get back to you later. If on the other hand, you're about to do a piece of work that you'd planned to do and someone interrupts you, we find it quite difficult to say, well, hold on a moment, I'm about to do something, come back later. And so we take the interruption and it disrupts our whole day. If, on the other hand, that piece of work is also in your diary, you can look them in the eye and with a straight face say, I'm sorry, I have a commitment, there's something I need to do now, I will get back to you. And of course, you will feel better about doing that. And it's not to say, by the way, that if that interruption is genuinely important and urgent, that you don't have the discretion to override the commitments you put into your diary, but by having that schedule, it changes the psychology. I tend to do my OATS planning for tomorrow in the evening. Some people prefer to put things aside and then come into work in the morning and do their OATS plan for the day at the start of the day. But the reason I like to do it in the evening is it gets all the ideas that I've got buzzing around in my head for the things I need to do onto paper. And that means that having discharged them from my brain, I can relax. And most people find that one of the reasons they don't sleep well is because all the things they need to do tomorrow are buzzing around in their brain. If you dump those ideas onto paper, it gets them out of your brain and you will sleep better. And as you get better at using the OATS principle to plan your day, you can move on to planning the week ahead. The last thing I do every Friday afternoon is to think about what I want to achieve the next week, my outcomes. I list out the key activities and I schedule them block by block into my diary. And the last Friday of every month, I do the same thing on a monthly basis. I think about what I want to achieve in a month. I think about things I need to do to achieve it, roughly how long to allow, and I schedule them into my month. So the OATS principle is a fantastic way to gain control of your time. It accommodates interruptions, it handles interruptions very well, and if your whole day changes mid-morning, then all you need to do is deal with the interruption that you've had, and when you finish with it, take 5 to 10 minutes to do a new OATS plan that will cover the rest of your day. Please do give us a thumbs up if you like this video. There's loads more great management courses content to come, so please subscribe to our channel and hit the bell so you don't miss any of it. I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video, and in the meantime, keep learning.